You see, no one ever truly taught you about money. School didn't show you how to think about it, how to attract wealth, manage it wisely, or make it multiply. You were taught to work hard, not to think differently. That's why so many people stay stuck, repeating the same cycle, working more, yet never truly getting ahead. Because here's the reality. Hard work alone can't fix a poor mindset. You can't outwork the way you think. You have to reprogram it. This is where the wealthy set themselves apart. They've learned that success starts in the mind, long before it shows up in the bank. The million-dollar mindset is for those who feel ready to break free, for the dreamers who know they're meant for something greater, and for the few who are ready to transform their entire relationship with money into one of purpose, power, and abundance. If that sounds like you, pause for a moment and take a deep breath, because what's coming next isn't just about making more money, it's about evolving into the person who naturally attracts it. And let me tell you this, you've already taken the first step in the right direction.
Chapter 1. Reprogram your brain for wealth. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last time you wanted something you couldn't afford. Maybe it was a vacation, a new car, or simply the freedom to pay your bills without anxiety. Now ask yourself this. What went through your mind in that moment? Did you feel a sense of possibility, or did a familiar voice whisper that wealth isn't meant for people like you? That voice, that automatic response, isn't your destiny. It's simply a neural pathway carved deep into your brain through years of repetition. And here's the extraordinary truth that neuroscience has proven beyond doubt. Those pathways can be rewritten. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It's a living, breathing, constantly adapting organ that reshapes itself based on what you feed it. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, every story you tell yourself about money has literally sculpted the physical structure of your mind. The neural networks that fire when you think about wealth, abundance, or financial success have been built through repetition, just like a path through a forest becomes clearer each time someone walks it. If you've spent years thinking thoughts of scarcity, limitation, and financial struggle, you've unknowingly become a master architect of poverty consciousness. But the same principle that built those limitations can dismantle them and construct something entirely new. Neuroplasticity is the scientific term for your brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself, forming new neural connections throughout your entire life. For decades, scientists believed the adult brain was relatively fixed, that our personalities and mental patterns were set in stone by our mid-20s. That belief has been shattered. Research now shows that your brain remains malleable, capable of profound transformation at any age. When you repeatedly focus on new thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors, your brain physically changes its structure. Neurons that fire together wire together. This isn't motivational philosophy. This is biological fact. Think about learning to drive a car. At first, every action required intense concentration. You had to consciously think about pressing the brake, checking mirrors, turning the wheel. Your brain was working overtime, creating new neural pathways for each action. But after weeks and months of repetition, something magical happened. Driving became automatic. You could navigate traffic while having a conversation, your hands and feet moving in perfect coordination without conscious thought. Your brain had wired those actions into automatic programs, freeing your conscious mind for other tasks. The same process applies to your relationship with money. Right now, your financial behaviors are running on autopilot. When you see a price tag, your brain instantly calculates whether it's affordable based on deeply embedded beliefs about your worth and what you deserve. When opportunities arise, you either move toward them or retreat, guided by unconscious programming installed years ago. These automatic responses feel like truth, like inherent aspects of who you are, but they're simply well-practiced patterns. And patterns can be interrupted, replaced, and reprogrammed through deliberate repetition of new thoughts and behaviors. The wealthy don't possess different brains. They've simply wired their neural networks differently through consistent exposure to abundance thinking. When they see an expensive item, their brain doesn't trigger stress responses. When they encounter financial opportunities, they don't activate fear circuits. Their automatic programming runs on possibility rather than limitation. The extraordinary news is that you can install this same programming through strategic repetition. Your brain doesn't distinguish between experiences that happen to you and experiences you vividly imagine. When you repeatedly visualize yourself making confident financial decisions, your brain creates the same neural pathways as if you'd actually made those decisions. When you consistently affirm your worthiness of wealth, you're literally rewiring the circuits that determine your financial identity. But here's where most people fail. They try to reprogram their brain with occasional positive thoughts, a few scattered affirmations when they're feeling motivated. That's like trying to create a path through a forest by walking it once a month. The weeds grow back faster than you can clear them. Neuroplasticity requires repetition, consistency, and emotional intensity. You must flood your brain with new patterns so frequently and so powerfully that the old pathways begin to weaken while new ones strengthen into superhighways of abundance consciousness. The next time you catch yourself thinking a limiting thought about money, recognize it for what it is, an old neural pathway firing automatically. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to follow it. You can consciously choose a different thought, and with each repetition, you weaken the old pattern and strengthen the new one. This is your power. This is your path. Your brain is waiting to be reprogrammed, and every moment offers a new opportunity to rewire yourself for the wealth that's been waiting for you all along. 7 key points to take action. 1. Recognize your automatic money thoughts. Spend 3 days simply noticing every automatic thought that arises when you think about money, without judgment, just awareness of your current programming. 2. Choose one limiting belief to target. Identify your strongest limiting belief about wealth and write down its exact opposite as your new truth to install. 3. Create a daily repetition ritual. Commit to repeating your new wealth belief at least 50 times daily, preferably out loud with emotional conviction. 4. Visualize wealth decisions vividly. Spend 5 minutes each morning visualizing yourself making confident, abundant financial choices in rich sensory detail. 5. Interrupt old patterns immediately. The moment you catch yourself a scarcity thought, say cancel or delete, and immediately replace it with your new abundance thought. 6. Engage emotions during repetition. Connect genuine feelings of excitement, gratitude, and worthiness to your new beliefs as emotion accelerates neuroplasticity. 7. Track your mental shifts. Keep a journal noting when your automatic responses to money situations begin changing, celebrating each small rewiring victory.
Chapter 2. Heal your money relationship. Emotions that shape financial results. There's a moment that happens to almost everyone, usually in childhood, that becomes the invisible architect of their financial future. Maybe you were 7 years old, standing in a grocery store, asking for something small, something that seemed insignificant, and you watched your parents' face tighten with stress, heard the sharp edge in their voice as they said no, felt the heavy silence that followed. In that moment, your young brain didn't just register disappointment, it created a neural association between money and pain, between wanting and shame, between financial desire and emotional danger. That single moment, repeated in countless variations throughout your formative years, built an emotional foundation that now controls your financial decisions more powerfully than any strategy or system ever could. Your relationship with money isn't logical. It's emotional, primal, and deeply rooted in experiences you may not even consciously remember.
Every financial decision you make passes through an emotional filter built from years of conditioning. When you hesitate to raise your prices, that's not a rational business decision. That's an emotional program running in the background, whispering that you're not worthy of more. When you sabotage success just as you're about to break through, that's not bad luck. That's your emotional system protecting you from the unfamiliar territory of abundance because your nervous system has been trained to feel safe in struggle. Most people try to build wealth while carrying unhealed emotional wounds around money. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. You can pour in all the strategies, affirmations, and action steps you want, but the results keep draining away through those emotional gaps. The wealthy understand something crucial that the struggling never grasp. Money flows toward emotional coherence. When your conscious desires for wealth align with your subconscious emotional programming, you become magnetic to opportunity. When they conflict, you become a masterpiece of self-sabotage, no matter how hard you work or how smart your strategies are. Think about your current emotional state when you check your bank account. Does your stomach tighten? Does anxiety flood your chest? Or do you feel calm, confident, and in control? That emotional response is a diagnostic reading of your money relationship, and it's predicting your financial future with stunning accuracy. Your nervous system is either wired for abundance or scarcity, and it broadcasts that signal in every interaction, every negotiation, every decision you make. People sense it. Opportunities respond to it. Money itself seems to recognize whether you're emotionally ready to receive and steward it wisely. Healing your money relationship begins with excavating the emotional memories that built your current programming. You must become an archaeologist of your own financial psychology, digging into the moments that taught you money equals stress, that wanting more makes you greedy, that wealth corrupts character, or that financial success will cost you love and belonging. These beliefs aren't neutral observations. They're emotional landmines buried in your subconscious, exploding whenever you get close to real prosperity. Until you identify them, feel them fully, and consciously release them, they'll continue running your financial life from the shadows. But here's what makes this work so powerful. When you heal one emotional wound around money, you don't just remove an obstacle. You liberate enormous amounts of energy that were previously locked in maintaining that defense mechanism. People who successfully heal their money relationship often report feeling lighter, more creative, more confident. They stop attracting the same draining financial situations. They make better decisions because they're no longer deciding from fear, shame, or unworthiness. Their emotional system becomes an ally in wealth building rather than an invisible enemy. The transformation happens when you can sit with discomfort around money without spiraling into old patterns. When you can receive compliments about your success without deflecting. When you can charge what you're worth without apologizing. When you can desire more without guilt. These aren't superficial changes. They're evidence that your emotional relationship with money has fundamentally shifted. And when that relationship heals, your external financial reality reorganizes itself to match your new internal state in often ways that seem miraculous but are simply the natural result of removing emotional interference from the flow of abundance. Your bank account is a mirror of your emotional health around money. Change the emotions, and the numbers follow. This is the healing work that creates lasting wealth. 7 key points to take action. Write your earliest money memory. Describe in detail the first time you felt strong emotion around money, capturing what you saw, heard, and felt to identify your foundational programming. Name your 3 core money emotions. Identify the 3 emotions that most frequently arise when dealing with finances: anxiety, shame, fear, guilt, or unworthiness. Track emotional spending patterns. For 1 week, note your emotional state before every purchase, revealing the feelings you're trying to soothe with money. Practice the financial calm technique. Before any money decision, take 3 deep breaths and ask, what would someone who feels financially safe right now do? Rewrite your money story with compassion. Journal about your financial past from a place of understanding rather than judgment, releasing shame around previous mistakes. Create a new emotional anchor. Choose one empowering emotion you want to associate with money: excitement, peace, gratitude, and deliberately cultivate it during positive financial moments. Forgive those who shaped your money wounds. Write forgiveness letters to parents, past employers, or anyone connected to your financial pain, even if you never send them.
Chapter 3. Visualization Secrets of Millionaires. Create mental movies that drive action. Most people who try visualization fail because they're watching the wrong movie. They close their eyes and see themselves holding stacks of cash, sitting on a beach, or standing in front of a mansion. They feel a pleasant tingle of possibility, open their eyes, and return to exactly the same life they had before. The visualization felt good in the moment, but it changed nothing. It created no momentum, inspired no action, and built no new neural pathways toward wealth. This isn't because visualization doesn't work, it's because they're visualizing the destination instead of the transformation. Millionaires who successfully use visualization aren't fantasizing about outcomes, they're mentally rehearsing the person they need to become to create those outcomes. They're not seeing themselves with money, they're seeing themselves making the decisions, taking the actions, and embodying the identity that naturally attracts money. Their mental movies are training films, not entertainment. Every visualization session is a dress rehearsal for real life, installing new patterns of thought and behavior that their brain will automatically execute when similar situations arise in reality. The science behind this is profound. Your brain contains mirror neurons that fire both when you perform an action and when you vividly imagine performing that same action. Olympic athletes have used this for decades, mentally rehearsing their routines so thoroughly that their muscles develop memory without physical practice. The same principle applies to wealth building. When you visualize yourself confidently negotiating a deal, your brain creates neural pathways for confidence in negotiation. When you imagine yourself calmly handling a financial setback, you're training your nervous system to remain regulated under pressure. These aren't fantasies, they're mental installations of the capabilities you need to succeed. But here's where most visualization practices miss the critical element: sensory detail and emotional intensity. Your brain doesn't respond to vague, fuzzy images of future success. It responds to vivid, multi-sensory experiences that feel real in the present moment. Millionaires who master visualization don't just see success, they feel the texture of the pen as they sign the contract. They hear the specific tone of voice they use when stating their price with authority. They smell the leather seats in the car they drive to important meetings. They taste the coffee they're drinking when they check their growing account balance. Every sense is engaged, making the visualization so real that their brain treats it as lived experience. The emotional component is equally crucial. Visualization without emotion is like planting seeds without water. The images might exist, but they won't grow into anything. When you visualize your wealthy self, you must feel the emotions that version of you experiences. Not the shallow excitement of fantasy, but the deep, grounded confidence of someone who knows their worth. The calm certainty of someone who trusts their decisions. The generous joy of someone who has enough to share. These emotions become the fuel that drives your visualization from pleasant daydream into powerful programming tool. Here's a secret that separates amateur visualizers from masters. The wealthy spend more time visualizing the process than the prize. They see themselves waking up early with energy and purpose. They imagine themselves having difficult conversations with grace and firmness. They visualize themselves choosing the harder right thing over the easier wrong thing. They mentally rehearse saying no to distractions and yes to opportunities. Every visualization is a practice run for the behaviors that create wealth, not just a preview of the results those behaviors produce. The most powerful visualization happens in a specific state of consciousness, right before sleep and immediately upon waking. In these moments, your brain operates in theta wave frequency, the same state experienced during deep meditation. The barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind is thin, porous, permeable. Visualizations performed in this state bypass your critical mind and install directly into your subconscious programming. This is when millionaires do their most important mental work, using those precious minutes to imprint the identity and behaviors of wealth so deeply that they become automatic. Your mental movies are the blueprint your brain follows to construct your reality. If you're not deliberately creating that blueprint, you're allowing your past experiences and current circumstances to create it for you. That's a recipe for repetition, not transformation. Start directing your own mental cinema. Make yourself the star of a story where you're capable, confident, and worthy of extraordinary success. Watch that movie every day with full sensory engagement and genuine emotion. Your brain won't know it's not real yet, and it will begin building the reality to match the vision. This is how millionaires use their minds as the most powerful wealth-building tool they possess. 7 key points to take action. 1. Design your signature visualization scene. Create one specific, detailed scenario showing you confidently executing a wealth-building behavior you currently avoid or struggle with. 2. Engage all 5 senses deliberately. For your chosen scene, write out what you see, hear, feel, smell, and taste, making it as sensorially rich as possible. 3. Practice morning and evening sessions. Commit to visualizing your scene for 5 minutes immediately after waking and right before sleep when your brain is most receptive. 4. Focus on process over outcome. Spend 80% of visualization time on your confident actions and only 20% on the results those actions create. 5. Embody the emotional state. Before each visualization, generate the feeling of confidence, calm, or certainty first, then build the mental images around that emotional foundation. 6. Add progressive difficulty. Once one scenario feels easy to imagine, create a more challenging version that stretches your self-concept further. 7. Bridge visualization to action. After each session, identify one small real-world action you can take that day that aligns with your visualized identity.
Chapter 4. Identity to Income Shift. How Self-Image and Language Build Wealth. There's a moment in every transformation where everything changes, and it's not when you learn a new strategy or discover a secret technique. It happens when you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to become wealthy and start seeing yourself as someone who already is. This shift is so subtle that most people miss it entirely. Yet it's the invisible hinge upon which every financial door swings open. Your income will never consistently exceed your identity. You can have brief surges of success, temporary windfalls, and lucky breaks, but your financial reality will always contract back to match the size of the person you believe yourself to be. Your self-image is the master program running beneath every conscious thought and action. It's the answer to the question you rarely ask yourself directly: who am I? That answer determines what opportunities you notice, what risks you take, what prices you charge, and what treatment you accept from others. If your self-image is that of someone who struggles, someone who gets by, someone who's lucky to have what they have, then your entire operating system is designed to maintain that identity. Your brain, which craves consistency above all else, will filter reality to confirm what you already believe about yourself. It will guide you towards circumstances, relationships, and decisions that validate your current self-concept, even if that self-concept is destroying your financial future. The wealthy operate from a completely different identity foundation. When they wake up in the morning, they don't think, I hope this works, or maybe I'll succeed. Their internal dialogue assumes capability, worthiness, and inevitability. This isn't arrogance or delusion, it's identity alignment. They've consciously or unconsciously adopted a self-image that includes wealth as a natural expression of who they are. And here's what makes this so powerful. When your identity includes wealth, you don't have to motivate yourself to do wealth-building activities. They emerge naturally from who you are, the same way a musician naturally creates music or an athlete naturally moves their body. Language is the most accessible tool for identity transformation, yet it's wildly underestimated. The words you use to describe yourself aren't neutral labels. They're creative forces that literally construct your reality. Every time you say, I'm not good with money, you're not describing a permanent truth. You're installing a command into your subconscious mind. Every time you say, I can't afford that, you're not making a financial observation. You're declaring an identity of limitation. Your brain hears these statements and says, understood. I'll make sure reality matches what you're telling me is true about you. Listen to how millionaires speak about themselves and their circumstances. They don't say, I can't afford it. They say, that's not where I'm choosing to invest right now. They don't say, I'm trying to be successful. They say, I'm building something remarkable. They don't say, I hope this works. They say, I'm solving an important problem. These aren't semantic games. They're identity declarations. Every sentence constructs a self-image of agency, choice, and capability. Their language reflects an identity that owns their reality rather than being victimized by it. The transformation begins when you audit your language with ruthless honesty. For one full day, notice every statement you make about yourself, your finances, and your capabilities. Write them down. You'll be shocked to discover how many limiting identity declarations you make unconsciously. I'm just not a numbers person. I'm terrible at marketing myself. Money just slips through my fingers. Each phrase is a brick in the prison of your current identity, and you're the one placing them there, conversation after conversation, thought after thought. Once you see your language patterns clearly, you can begin the reconstruction. This isn't about fake affirmations that feel hollow and untrue. It's about finding identity statements that stretch you without breaking your believability. If you currently make $40,000 a year, you might not believe I'm a millionaire, but you can believe I'm someone who's rapidly increasing their income. If you struggle with sales, you might not believe I'm a master closer, but you can believe I'm becoming more confident in valuing and presenting my work. These bridge statements create a pathway from your current identity to your desired identity, and your brain can follow them because they feel possible. The ultimate identity shift happens when you stop performing wealth and start being wealthy, even before your bank account reflects it. This means making decisions from abundance rather than scarcity, speaking about yourself with the same respect you'd give someone you admire, carrying yourself with the posture and energy of someone who knows their worth, treating your time and attention as valuable resources. These behaviors aren't rewards you grant yourself after success. They're the identity expressions that create success. Your income is simply your identity made visible. Change who you are, and what you have will follow naturally. This is the shift that changes everything. 7 key points to take action. 1. Record your identity language. For 24 hours, note every I am or I'm not statement you make about yourself and money, revealing your current identity programming. 2. Create your wealth identity statement. Write one powerful present tense sentence describing the financial identity you're stepping into. I am someone who. 3. Replace disempowering phrases. Identify your 3 most frequent limiting phrases and create empowering alternatives that feel believable as bridges. 4. Speak your new identity daily. Say your wealth identity statement out loud 10 times each morning with conviction, allowing your brain to hear you claim this new self. 5. Make one identity-aligned decision. Each day, ask what would someone with my desired identity choose, and make at least one decision from that perspective. 6. Eliminate apologetic language. Stop saying just,
sorry, or I think maybe when discussing your worth, prices, or capabilities, speaking with clean authority instead. 7. Introduce yourself differently. At your next opportunity, introduce yourself using language that reflects your new identity rather than your old limiting story. Chapter 5. Master fear to multiply income. Why staying calm creates rich results. Fear is the silent assassin of wealth. It operates in the shadows of your nervous system, killing opportunities before they reach your conscious awareness. It whispers when you're about to raise your prices, paralyzing you with visions of rejection. It screams when you consider making an investment, flooding you with catastrophic scenarios. It freezes you when opportunity knocks, disguising itself as caution, prudence, or being realistic. Most people never build significant wealth, not because they lack knowledge or opportunity, but because fear hijacks their nervous system at the exact moments when bold action is required. Here's what most people misunderstand about fear and money. The wealthy feel fear too. They feel it when making million-dollar decisions. They feel it when launching new ventures. They feel it when everything is on the line. The difference isn't that they're fearless. The difference is that they've trained themselves to remain calm and functional while fear is present. They've mastered the art of feeling afraid and moving forward anyway, of allowing fear to exist without allowing it to control their decisions. This emotional regulation capacity is worth more than any business degree or inheritance because it determines whether you can execute when execution matters most. Your nervous system has two modes, survival and creation. When fear activates your sympathetic nervous system, you enter survival mode. Blood flows away from your prefrontal cortex where complex decision-making happens, and floods into your limbs, preparing you to fight or flee. Your perception narrows to immediate threats. Your thinking becomes rigid and reactive. Your creativity evaporates. In this state, you literally cannot access the parts of your brain required for strategic thinking, pattern recognition, and opportunity assessment. You become incapable of building wealth because wealth building requires the cognitive functions that fear shuts down. The wealthy have discovered something profound. Calmness is a competitive advantage. When everyone else is panicking, the person who can stay regulated sees opportunities invisible to others. When fear is contracting most people's vision, the calm individual maintains peripheral awareness and spots connections others miss. When anxiety is causing rushed, desperate decisions, the centered person makes choices from wisdom rather than reactivity. This is why market crashes create millionaires. Not because crashes are inherently good, but because they separate those who can think clearly under pressure from those who cannot. Learning to master fear begins with understanding that fear and excitement create nearly identical physiological sensations in your body. Increased heart rate, shallow breathing, heightened alertness. The difference between the two isn't physical, it's interpretive. Your brain labels the sensation based on your beliefs about the situation. When you believe you're in danger, the sensation becomes fear. When you believe you're approaching something valuable, the same sensation becomes excitement. This means you can literally reframe fear as excitement by changing your interpretation of the physical sensations, transforming a limiting emotion into an empowering one. The technique is simple but requires practice. When fear arises around a financial decision or opportunity, pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths. This immediately begins shifting your nervous system from sympathetic activation toward parasympathetic regulation. Then, instead of asking, "What could go wrong?" ask, "What's possible here?" This cognitive reframe redirects your attention from threat assessment to opportunity recognition. Finally, remind yourself that this sensation of activation means you're at your growth edge, exactly where expansion happens. The fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signpost marking the path to your next level.
Most people avoid fear, which means they avoid growth. They make decisions designed to minimize discomfort rather than maximize opportunity. They stay in situations that feel safe, even when those situations are slowly destroying their financial future. The wealthy have a completely different relationship with fear. They understand that fear is often a compass pointing toward exactly what they need to do next. The things that scare you are often the things that will transform you. The decisions that feel risky are often the decisions that build empires. Here's the practice that separates those who master fear from those who remain mastered by it. Deliberately doing one thing each day that activates mild fear. Send that message you've been avoiding. Make that call you've been postponing. State that boundary you've been hesitating to set. Charge that price that feels too high. Each time you feel fear and act anyway, you're training your nervous system to function under pressure. You're proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort. You're expanding your window of tolerance for uncertainty. And you're building the emotional capacity required to play at levels where real wealth is created. Master fear, and you multiply not just income, but every dimension of your life that requires courage to expand. 7 key points to take action. 1. Name your primary financial fear. Identify the specific fear that most consistently stops you from taking wealth-building action, writing it out explicitly. 2. Practice the 3-breath reset. When fear arises, pause and take 3 deep, slow breaths before making any decision, allowing your nervous system to regulate. 3. Reframe sensation as excitement. The next time you feel fear around money, say out loud, "This is excitement about my growth," relabeling the physical sensation. 4. Ask the opportunity question. Replace "what could go wrong" with "what becomes possible if this works," shifting your focus from threat to opportunity. 5. Take one fear-activating action daily. Commit to doing something small each day that creates mild discomfort, training your nervous system to function while activated. 6. Study your fear patterns. Journal about when financial fear is strongest, revealing the specific situations where you need the most regulation practice. 7. Celebrate fear despite action. Each time you act despite fear, acknowledge it as evidence of your growing mastery, reinforcing your capability.
Chapter 6. The Self-Image Thermostat of Success. Raise your inner financial set point. Every thermostat has a set point, a temperature it's programmed to maintain. When the room gets too cold, the thermostat triggers the heat. When it gets too warm, the thermostat activates the cooling. The system's entire purpose is to maintain consistency, to ensure the temperature never strays far from the predetermined setting. Your self-image operates on exactly the same principle, and it's controlling your financial temperature with precision most people never recognize. You have an internal set point for how much money you believe you should have, how much success you deserve, and how much abundance you can handle. And your subconscious mind is working tirelessly to keep your external reality matching that internal setting. This is why lottery winners so often return to broke within a few years. It's not just poor financial management, though that plays a role. It's that their self-image thermostat is set to a specific level of wealth, and sudden millions of dollars create massive incongruence. The temperature has spiked far above their set point, and their subconscious mind immediately begins cooling things down. They make inexplicable decisions. They trust the wrong people. They spend recklessly or invest foolishly. It looks like self-sabotage from the outside, and it is, but it's not intentional. It's their internal thermostat doing exactly what it's designed to do: restore consistency with their self-image. The same principle works in reverse, and this is even more insidious. When your income drops below your self-image set point, you suddenly discover motivation, creativity, and hustle you didn't know you had. You take action, make things happen, and somehow climb back to your familiar financial level. Most people interpret this as resilience or determination, and it is those things, but it's also your thermostat activating the heating system. You're not rising to your potential, you're returning to your programming. And once you're back at your set point, that mysterious motivation evaporates, leaving you wondering why you can't sustain the energy that got you there. The wealthy understand something critical. You must raise your internal set point before you can sustain external increases in wealth. Trying to build lasting prosperity with a low self-image set point is like trying to heat a house with the thermostat set to 50 degrees. No matter how much energy you pour in, the system will keep cooling things down to match the setting. This is why temporary motivation and intense action rarely create lasting results. You're fighting against your own internal regulatory system, and that's a battle you cannot win through effort alone. You must change the setting. Your financial set point was programmed through years of experiences, observations, and messages about what people like you are supposed to have. If you grew up watching your parents struggle, your thermostat was likely set to struggle. If you absorbed messages that wanting more was greedy, your set point includes a ceiling you unconsciously refuse to exceed. If you learned that money causes problems in relationships, your thermostat is programmed to prevent wealth accumulation as a protection mechanism. These settings feel like truth, like reality, like who you are, but they're simply programming installed when you were too young to question it. Raising your set point requires a specific kind of mental work. You must begin spending time in environments and among people where your desired income level is normal. Your brain needs evidence that higher levels of wealth are achievable, sustainable, and safe. When you only interact with people at your current financial level, you constantly reinforce your existing set point. But when you regularly expose yourself to people operating at your next level, your brain begins recalibrating what's normal. This isn't about pretending or faking. It's about expanding your reference point so your internal thermostat has new data to work with. Visualization plays a crucial role here, but with a specific focus. You must visualize yourself not just having wealth, but comfortably inhabiting wealthy spaces and confidently engaging in wealthy behaviors. See yourself in expensive restaurants without anxiety about the bill. Imagine yourself writing large checks without fear depleting your resources. Visualize your bank balance at your new level and feel completely calm, like it's ordinary and expected. This emotional calmness around higher wealth levels is the evidence your subconscious needs that the new temperature is safe. When your nervous system stops treating wealth as dangerous or unfamiliar, your thermostat can be reset to that higher level. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your current financial situation is not your limit. It's simply your current setting. And settings can be changed. Every time you choose thoughts, behaviors, and environments aligned with a higher financial set point, you're adjusting the dial. The adjustment happens gradually, which is why sustainable wealth building often feels slow at first. But once your internal thermostat is reset to a new level, maintaining that wealth becomes effortless. You're no longer fighting against your programming is working to maintain your new normal. This is how people create lasting wealth that survives challenges and sustains across decades. They don't just build a fortune, they rebuild their internal thermostat to match it. 7 key points to take action. 1. Identify your current set point. Write down the income level or net worth where you've consistently hovered, revealing your current financial thermostat setting. 2. Notice your comfort ceiling. Identify the specific dollar amount where you start feeling uncomfortable, nervous, or like, this is too much, exposing your upper limit. 3. Choose your new set point. Select a specific income level that feels like a meaningful stretch, but not completely unbelievable as your new thermostat target. 4. Immerse in new reference points. Find 3 ways to regularly expose yourself to people, environments, or content where your new set point is normal and unremarkable. 5. Practice wealth calmness. Spend 3 minutes daily visualizing your desired bank balance while consciously cultivating feelings of ease, safety, and normality. 6. Challenge self-sabotage patterns. When you notice behaviors that might lower your financial temperature, pause and consciously choose the action your new set point would take. And 7. Incrementally stretch your comfort zone. Each month, do something that represents your new financial level. Eat at a nicer restaurant, buy higher quality, or invest in yourself more significantly.
Chapter 7. Millionaire Mental Models and Leverage Strategies. Think like the ultra-rich.
There's a reason why someone with an average education and modest beginnings can build extraordinary wealth, while someone with every advantage remains stuck in mediocrity. It's not intelligence, connections, or luck, though those help. It's mental models, the frameworks through which you interpret reality and make decisions. The wealthy operate with completely different cognitive software than the struggling majority. They see the same world, the same opportunities, the same challenges, but their mental models allow them to perceive patterns, connections, and leverage points that remain invisible to others. Change your mental models and you change what's possible. Most people operate from a linear mental model. More effort equals more money. They think in terms of trading time for dollars, of working harder to earn more. This model isn't wrong, but it's severely limited. It has a ceiling built in, because there are only so many hours you can work and only so much energy you have to expend. The millionaire mental model is fundamentally different. It's based on leverage, multiplication, and systems. Instead of asking, "How can I work harder?" they ask, "How can I create more value with the same or less effort?" Instead of, "What can I do?" they ask, "What systems can I build?" This cognitive shift changes everything. Leverage is the master principle of wealth creation, and it comes in multiple forms. The most obvious is financial leverage, using other people's money to create returns. But there's also time leverage, using other people's hours through delegation and automation. Knowledge leverage, applying specialized expertise to create disproportionate value. Network leverage, accessing opportunities through relationships. Technology leverage, using tools to multiply output. The wealthy are constantly asking, "Where can I apply leverage?" while most people are asking, "What can I do myself?" These are fundamentally different questions that lead to fundamentally different outcomes. Another critical mental model is asymmetric risk and reward. The wealthy look for opportunities where the potential upside vastly exceeds the potential downside. They're not reckless, but they understand that not all risks are equal. Risking a small amount of money to potentially gain a large amount is smart. Risking everything for a modest potential gain is foolish. Most people have this backwards. They take huge life risks by staying in dead-end jobs with no growth potential while avoiding small financial risks that could transform their future. They protect their comfort today at the expense of their prosperity tomorrow. The millionaire mental model also includes extreme clarity about value creation versus value capture. Most people focus almost entirely on capturing value, on getting paid, on extracting resources from situations. The wealthy focus first on creating value, on solving problems, on making other people's lives better. They understand a profound economic truth. You get paid in proportion to the value you create, not the effort you expend. Someone who creates $10 of value might capture $1 or $2. Someone who creates $10 million of value can capture $1 or $2 million. The math changes completely when you shift your focus from personal effort to systemic value creation. Time perception is another mental model that separates the wealthy from everyone else. Most people discount the future too heavily, choosing immediate gratification over delayed rewards. The wealthy have extended time horizons. They make decisions based on what will compound over years and decades, not what feels good today. They plant trees they won't sit under. They build systems that will generate returns long after the initial work is complete. This patient, long-term thinking allows them to make choices that look irrational in the short term, but prove brilliant over time. Perhaps the most powerful mental model is abundance versus scarcity. People operating from scarcity believe there's a fixed pie, that someone else's gain is their loss, that resources are limited and must be hoarded. This model creates competition, defensiveness, and isolation. The wealthy operate from abundance. They believe value can be created, that collaboration often beats competition, that giving can lead to receiving. This mental model opens doors that remain permanently closed to scarcity thinkers. It attracts opportunities, partnerships, and resources because people want to work with those who operate from generosity rather than fear. The transformation happens when you begin deliberately installing these mental models, consciously choosing to think in terms of leverage, asymmetric opportunities, value creation, long-term compounding, and abundance. Your brain is infinitely programmable, but most people never question the default software they're running. Start examining your automatic thoughts about money and opportunity. When you catch yourself thinking linearly, ask how leverage could apply. When you notice scarcity thinking, consciously choose an abundance perspective. Over time, these new mental models become automatic, and when they do, your financial reality reorganizes itself around this new way of thinking. You don't just make more money, you become someone who thinks like money naturally flows to them. 7 key points to take action. 1. Identify your dominant money mental model. Write out your automatic answer to "How do I make more money?" revealing whether you think linearly or through leverage. 2. Ask the leverage question daily. For any task or goal, ask, "How could I apply leverage here?" training your brain to seek multiplication rather than addition. 3. Find one asymmetric opportunity. Identify one situation where you could risk something small, time, money, effort, for potentially large rewards, and take action on it. 4. Shift from effort to value. Choose one area where you're focused on working harder and reframe it around creating more value with similar or less effort. 5. Extend your time horizon. Make one decision this week based purely on what will compound over 5 years, ignoring short-term discomfort or delayed gratification. 6. Practice abundance in small ways. Share knowledge, make introductions, or give value without expectation of immediate return, training your abundance mental model. 7. Study millionaire thinking patterns. Read biographies or interviews with wealthy people specifically to extract and install their mental models, not just their strategies.
Chapter 8. Action is the real manifestation. How movement beats affirmations every time. There's a seductive comfort in thinking about wealth, in visualizing success, in affirming abundance from the safety of your current circumstances. It feels productive. It feels like you're doing something important. And in the moment, it creates a pleasant emotional state that can almost convince you that transformation is happening. But here's the uncomfortable truth that separates those who build real wealth from those who just think about it. No amount of mental work will deposit money in your bank account. At some point, thought must become action, or it remains fantasy. Movement beats meditation every single time when it comes to creating tangible results. The manifestation industry has created a dangerous illusion that thinking and feeling are enough, that if you just vibrate at the right frequency or hold the right thoughts, wealth will materialize. This is spiritual bypassing dressed in abundance language, and it keeps people stuck in preparation mode indefinitely. Yes, mindset matters enormously. Everything in the previous chapters matters. But all of that internal work exists to serve one purpose: enabling you to take more effective action. Your thoughts shape your actions, and your actions shape your reality. You can have perfect thoughts and zero results if those thoughts never translate into movement. Action is the bridge between the invisible and visible worlds. It's where possibility becomes reality. It's the mechanism through which everything you visualized, affirmed, and believed gets tested against the actual conditions of the universe. And here's what makes action so powerful. It generates feedback. When you take action, reality responds. Sometimes it responds favorably, and you gain momentum. Sometimes it responds with obstacles, and you gain information. Both responses are infinitely more valuable than the echo chamber of your own thoughts. Action breaks you out of the theoretical and puts you in direct contact with what actually works. Most people drastically underestimate how much action is required to create meaningful results. They take a few steps, encounter resistance, and retreat back into more thinking,
more planning, more preparing. The wealthy understand something fundamental. Massive action creates its own intelligence. When you're in motion, opportunities appear that were invisible when you were still. Connections happen that couldn't have been manufactured through planning. Skills develop that couldn't have been learned theoretically. The universe responds to movement in ways it never responds to contemplation, no matter how sincere or focused that contemplation might be. There's a specific type of action that creates wealth faster than any other: imperfect action. The person who launches an imperfect product learns more in a week than someone who spends a year perfecting their idea in private. The person who makes an awkward sales pitch and gets rejected gains more useful information than someone who rehearses until they're flawless but never actually reaches out. Imperfect action generates the real-world data you need to improve, iterate, and ultimately succeed. Perfectionism masquerading as conscientiousness is just another form of hiding, another way to avoid the vulnerability of putting yourself out there and risking failure. The action bias that separates the wealthy from everyone else is simple. When in doubt, move. When uncertain which path to take, start walking down one and adjust based on what you discover. When afraid of making the wrong decision, make a decision and deal with the consequences rather than remaining paralyzed. This doesn't mean acting recklessly without any thought. It means recognizing that analysis paralysis is more dangerous than course correction. You can adjust a moving vehicle. You can't steer one that's parked. Most people fail not because they took wrong action, but because they took no action, waiting for perfect clarity that never arrives. Here's the pattern you'll see in every wealthy person's journey. They took action before they were ready. They started the business before they had all the answers. They made the investment before they felt completely confident. They hired the team before they could obviously afford it. They acted from where they wanted to be rather than where they were, and reality rose up to meet their boldness. This isn't reckless irresponsibility. It's understanding that readiness is often a feeling that comes after action, not before it. You become ready by doing, not by preparing to do. The relationship between internal work and external action is synergistic, not sequential. You don't complete all your mindset work and then start taking action. You work on your mindset while taking action, using the feedback from action to inform what mindset work you need next. You visualize, then act. You affirm, then move. You heal your money wounds, then take risks that would have been impossible before. The internal and external work in tandem, each amplifying the effectiveness of the other. But if you had to choose one, choose action. Imperfect action with mediocre mindset will outperform perfect mindset with minimal action every single time. Your bank account doesn't respond to your thoughts or feelings. It responds to value created and delivered in the marketplace. It responds to problems solved, services rendered, products sold, investments made. These things require action. Physical, uncomfortable, uncertain action taken in the face of fear and doubt. The good news is that action becomes easier the more you take it. Your action muscle strengthens, your confidence grows, your competence develops. But that muscle doesn't strengthen from reading about action or visualizing action. It strengthens from taking action, repeatedly, consistently, despite how you feel in the moment. This is the manifestation that actually manifests. This is how thought becomes thing. Move, and money follows. 7 key points to take action. 1. Identify your action avoidance pattern. Write down the specific ways you substitute thinking, planning, or learning for actually taking wealth-building action. 2. Take one imperfect action today. Do something concrete toward wealth creation that feels uncomfortable or incomplete, embracing imperfection over delay. 3. Set a bias toward movement. Commit to a personal rule. When uncertain between 2 reasonable options, choose the one that involves more immediate action. 4. Track action versus planning ratio. For 1 week, measure how much time you spend planning, learning, and preparing versus actually executing, revealing your true action commitment. 5. Make the call you've been avoiding. Identify one communication you've been postponing due to fear or uncertainty and complete it within 24 hours. 6. Launch before you're ready. Choose one project, offer, or idea you've been perfecting in private and put a simplified version of it into the world this week. And 7. Build an action accountability system. Share your weekly action commitments with someone who will check whether you followed through, creating external pressure that overrides internal resistance.
Chapter 9. The Wealth Execution Code. Turn mindset into money through systems and strategy. Everything you've learned until this point remains theoretical until it meets structure. Mindset without systems is like horsepower without traction. Powerful but directionless, burning energy without creating forward movement. The wealthy don't just think differently, they operate differently. They've translated their superior mindset into concrete systems that execute automatically, creating results even when motivation wanes. This is the bridge most people never build, the infrastructure that transforms inspiration into income and possibility into prosperity. Systems are the difference between having a good idea and building an empire. A system is simply a repeatable process that produces consistent results. The wealthy systematize everything that matters. They have systems for identifying opportunities, for evaluating investments, for managing time, for generating leads, for following up with prospects, for capturing ideas, for developing skills. While most people approach each day reactively, responding to whatever demands arise, the wealthy move through structured routines designed to advance specific outcomes. Their days aren't random, they're architected. This architectural approach to life and business creates exponential advantages over time because systems compound just like money does. The first system you must build is decision-making criteria. The wealthy don't evaluate every opportunity from scratch, agonizing over each decision. They have predetermined filters that opportunities must pass through. What's the minimum return on investment they'll accept? What values must align? What time commitment is acceptable? What skills does this develop? When an opportunity arises, they run it through their filters quickly and decisively. This creates mental space and energy for execution rather than endless deliberation. Most people exhaust themselves making the same types of decisions repeatedly because they have no system for decision-making. Revenue generation must become systematic, not occasional. If your income depends on inspiration, motivation, or feeling ready, you're building on sand. The wealthy create systems that generate revenue regardless of emotional state. They create funnels that convert prospects automatically. They develop recurring revenue models that don't require constant new client acquisition. They create products that sell while they sleep. They systematize outreach so it happens on schedule, not when they remember. This doesn't remove creativity or human connection. It ensures those valuable elements get deployed strategically rather than randomly. Time management for the wealthy is actually energy management structured into systems. They don't try to do everything. They've systematically identified the 20% of activities that generate 80% of results, and they've built their schedules around protecting time for those critical few things. Everything else gets delegated, automated, or eliminated. They batch similar tasks together, creating efficiency through mental mode locking. They have systems for saying no to good opportunities so they can say yes to great ones. Their time isn't managed hour by hour. It's architected week by week based on strategic priorities. Financial tracking must be systematic, not sporadic. The wealthy know their numbers with precision because they have systems that make tracking effortless. They don't wait until tax time to understand their financial position. They have dashboards that update regularly, showing exactly where they stand. This isn't about obsessive control. It's about having the information needed to make intelligent decisions. You cannot improve what you don't measure, and most people avoid measuring because they fear what they'll discover. The wealthy measure everything because information is power, and systems make measurement automatic rather than optional. Learning and skill development becomes systematic for those who continuously grow their wealth. They don't learn randomly or chase shiny objects. They identify specific skills that will create leverage in their current situation, and they systematically develop those skills through structured practice. They have reading systems, note-taking systems, implementation systems that ensure knowledge becomes capability. They schedule learning time the same way they schedule important meetings, because they understand that capability compounds into capacity, and capacity determines how much wealth you can create and handle. The transformation from mindset to money happens when you stop relying on willpower and start relying on systems. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. Systems run regardless of willpower. When your wealth-building activities are systematized, they happen even on days when you're tired, distracted, or unmotivated. The system carries you forward when your enthusiasm cannot. This is how ordinary people build extraordinary results, not through superhuman discipline or constant motivation, but through intelligent systems that make the right actions automatic. Build the infrastructure and wealth becomes inevitable. This is the execution code that turns everything you've learned into everything you'll earn. 7 key points to take action. 1. Audit your current systems. List every repeated wealth-building activity you do and assess whether it's systematized or happening randomly based on motivation. 2. Create decision-making filters. Write out 3 to 5 specific criteria that opportunities must meet before you invest time or money, enabling faster decisions. 3. Systematize one revenue activity. Choose your most important income-generating activity and create a simple, repeatable process for ensuring it happens consistently. 4. Build a financial dashboard. Set up one system, spreadsheet, app, or tool that automatically tracks your key financial numbers weekly instead of waiting for monthly or annual reviews. 5. Design your ideal week template. Block out recurring time for your highest value activities, protecting them from random urgencies and creating a repeatable structure. 6. Automate one business process. Identify one task you do repeatedly and find a way to automate, delegate, or templatize it, freeing mental energy for higher value work. 7. Create a learning system. Establish a specific scheduled time for skill development each week and a method for capturing and implementing what you learn. Chapter 10. Infinite Growth. Becoming the source of wealth. Legacy, abundance, and the next level of success. There comes a moment in every wealth journey when the game changes completely.
It's not when you make your first significant money, though that's important. It's not when you achieve financial security, though that's liberating. It's when you realize that you are not pursuing wealth, you have become wealth. This shift from seeking abundance to being abundance is the final transformation, the one that creates lasting legacy and positions you not just as a beneficiary of prosperity, but as a source of it for others. This is where wealth transcends personal gain and becomes generative, creating value that outlives you and impacts generations you'll never meet. Most people spend their entire lives trying to get wealth from the world, extracting value, accumulating resources, protecting what they've gathered. There's nothing wrong with this stage. It's necessary. You must fill your own cup before you can pour into others. But the truly wealthy eventually recognize that the greatest abundance comes not from getting, but from giving, not from accumulating, but from circulating. When you become a source of wealth, rather than just a recipient of it, something shifts in how the universe responds to you. Opportunities multiply. Resources flow toward you with less effort. You become magnetic to prosperity because you've stopped being a dam and become a river. Becoming a source of wealth means developing the capacity to create value from nothing but your knowledge, skills, and vision. It means no longer needing specific circumstances to align before you can prosper. Regardless of economic conditions, market fluctuations, or external situations, you have the internal resources to generate abundance. This is true wealth, the kind that can't be taken from you, the kind that rebuilds even if everything external is lost. You've internalized the principles so completely that wealth generation is no longer something you do, it's something you are. Legacy thinking emerges naturally at this level. You begin making decisions based not just on what benefits you today or even in your lifetime, but on what impact you want to create beyond your years. You plant orchards you'll never harvest. You build institutions that will serve people you'll never meet. You invest in developing other people's capacity because you understand that your greatest legacy isn't what you accumulate, it's what you activate in others. The wealthy person focused only on personal gain might become rich. The person focused on creating generational impact becomes unforgettable. This level requires a complete reimagining of what success means. Early in your journey, success might have meant paying bills without stress. Then, it became financial security, perhaps even luxury. But infinite growth means redefining success as positive impact, as problems solved, as lives transformed, as systems improved. Your bank account becomes less interesting than your contribution. Not because money doesn't matter, but because you've transcended the scarcity that made money your primary focus. You have enough, and now the game is about meaning, about using your wealth as a tool for transformation rather than an end in itself. The paradox of this level is that by releasing your grip on wealth, you tend to attract more of it. When you're no longer making decisions from fear of loss or desperate need for gain, you make better decisions. When you're willing to invest in ideas, people, and ventures that may not pay off for years, you access opportunities unavailable to those thinking quarterly. When you give generously without calculating immediate return, you create goodwill and relationships that generate returns in unexpected ways. Abundance consciousness at this level isn't positive thinking. It's a lived reality that shapes every choice you make. Becoming the source also means accepting responsibility as a steward rather than just an owner. The wealth flowing through your life isn't ultimately yours. You're managing it temporarily, deciding how it gets deployed, where it creates impact, who it serves. This perspective eliminates the anxiety of protecting what you have because you're not clinging to it, you're directing it. Stewardship thinking creates freedom that ownership thinking never can. Because stewards understand that their job is to increase the value of what they manage and pass it forward in better condition than they received it. The final evolution is recognizing that growth itself is infinite. There is no arrival point, no final destination where the work is complete. Every level you reach reveals new levels beyond it. Every problem you solve exposes bigger problems worth solving. Every amount you earn opens possibilities for earning more. But at this stage, the growth isn't driven by insufficiency, it's driven by possibility, by curiosity, by the joy of expansion itself. You grow not because something is missing, but because growth is the nature of life. You've become someone who creates abundance as naturally as a tree produces fruit, not through strain or effort, but through alignment with your essential nature. This is the infinite game, and you're no longer playing to win. You're playing, to keep growing, to keep contributing. This is wealth without limits, success without end, an abundance that flows through you to everyone you touch. 7 key points to take action. 1. Define your wealth legacy. Write a specific vision of the impact you want your wealth to create beyond your lifetime, shifting from accumulation to contribution thinking. 2. Identify your unique value source. Clarify the specific knowledge, skills, or vision you possess that can create value regardless of external circumstances, revealing your portable wealth. 3. Make one stewardship decision. Choose one current asset or resource and ask, how can I deploy this for maximum impact rather than how can I protect this? 4. Invest in someone else's growth. Commit time, money, or knowledge to developing another person's capacity without expectation of direct return, practicing source consciousness. 5. Shift one goal from getting to giving. Reframe one current financial goal from how do I get X to how do I create X for others while building it for myself. 6. Build a giving system. Create a specific, systematic approach to generosity, percentage of income, time commitment, skill sharing that operates automatically rather than randomly.